what degree do you operate on your vampirism? Do you vampire the plant life? Do you vampire the animal life with the blood? Or do you go to the higher levels of your vampirism and you vampire humans? And they're different levels. Now the dark ones that used to take of the sun, that was us. We were the original sun creatures because the sun had a very high, hydrogenated energy. In fact, there was a halo around this planet that kept a specific temperature, kept a specific atmosphere, and there was no need for any kind of hostility. There was no aging. There was none of that. When that fell during the 40 days and 40 nights of rain, during the time it was supposed to be an atomic cataclysm, everything went to hell and back, but that was the experiment. What could man do now outside of the garden? What happened? The higher creatures who are supposed to be our big brothers and sisters set up specific situations where entities who needed to come into certain levels of teaching mechanisms would use the bodies to come in here to do certain things to spiritualize our level of consciousness, and then they would be stationed in different areas. I'm giving you the story now. Stationed in different areas with the knowledge they received while in the physical body, and they would then help to resurrect. That's where the Jesus and the Buddha and the Zoroasters and the Amens and all of these came in here. This is a school. Okay. The vampirism turned into what it is we dealt with because the blood and the sperm, see, they're not just going for the blood. It is the essential essence, the light, the crystalline light that is the blood is what they're going after. They're not just going after the corpuscles. They're going after what the corpuscles give off. And if you look at sperm, sperm has a very high potassium level to the point where you put it under a microscope and it glows in the dark. Right. Those vampires have to take you right. But that's symbolic. It's symbolic of where they're going to find the light. Because that's the most heavily melanated area at the area. They're going back to the black. So when you become a vampire and you start dealing with just the sun, the rays of the light, you're dealing with the invisible ray spectrum, which is the ultraviolet and infrared. Those are the ones that dealt with directly the sun. They dealt with the light that you see coming, reflected light, or the light that was inside the light, which is the nurturing. If you see ultraviolet, infrared, those are the colors of your blood, ain't they? Well, essentially, that's essentially what happens. They're taking from the blood of the sun. That's why the Son of God is the sacrifice savior who gives up its life for the benefits of man. Because the ultraviolet infrared light that you're taking in is the blood of the sun. There she went. So now as you're beginning to see the different variations on the same theme, you're going to start seeing the people who are dealing on the lower realms. Like the ones who just want to come and bite and kill and suck on the blood. They're living on a lower dietary realm. That's people like eating meat for us, eating all kind of crap, McDonald's. Then there are those who eat on the higher realms, who eat from the, from the nuts and the fruits and the buddy. Then you have the juicerians, and they do the different levels of vampires the same way. You see. So now, all the different things that they have, all the different versions of vampires are the different levels of the evolved entities that fell. Now, the ones that we're talking about, you see the ones biting on the neck with Anne Rice, those were the ones that came out through Kemet after the Great War. And the Great War, again, shifted the environment. Remember, vampires only come about when a certain environment comes about. And what is our environment? It's filthy. It's low. It's dirty. And what is one of the lowest, most simplest form of vampire we have flying around today? The mosquito. And where do mosquitoes stay? Swamps and in filthy places. A place is stagnant and it's stinking and so forth. Well, why would vampires start coming back here? Unless, as I was saying to you, the human condition has stultified to the point now where the blood does not match the same trajectory and velocity of being that the particular universe that we're in is now speeding at. And we are a swamp of consciousness. We're not flowing like a river anymore, you see. So this swamp of consciousness, which has become us under Christianity, is now being preyed upon by vampires because they're all here now. Why is this? Why they all got their websites up? Because we are all filthy spiritually inside. So now, these people were the direct legacy of the Great War that happened in Kemet, but that took Kemet down. The first level of Kemet down. Destroyed, took the continents apart, the whole 9 yards. And what happened were these little Edens, this is where the word Eden comes from, E-D-I-N, not E-D-E-N, when the higher beings were taking in all of the men and women who had survived this particular cataclysm, brought them in, took care of them and so forth. But some of them got deep into the caves, and then they lost their pigment. Us. And what happened was, with the lack of sun and their inability to be able to fuse through the hydrogen canopy that we were in, and to be able to eat of the proper food, breathe the proper conditioned air. Remember, back then it was 50% oxygen and gold and silver. The air was actually vaporized gold. We breathed gold. See? We breathed the pure hydrogen molecule, which was the direct mind of God. The hydrogen molecule is the direct component, the direct holographic component of the mind of God. Okay? So as we breathe that, we were in tune with our mother father. Destroy that, distort it, so that no longer did the compounds combine together properly to keep consciousness at that level, and consciousness automatically begins to deteriorate. As it deteriorated, all of the different variations of hell and all of the different variations of ignorance and mutations began to show themselves. And all these different stories of horror and all these things began to show. You can have a man grow hair right in front of you. It was a disease called porphyria. The same disease, porphyria, is what created the vampires that you see today, the ones that bite you on the neck and try to drink your blood. Why do they drink your blood? Because in their body did not have the ability to synthesize femion or ferrous iron into hemoglobin iron. So what they would do is come and bite you on the neck and take the hemoglobin iron directly from you so that they could live. So if you don't have the ability to convert ferrous iron, which is the actual heavy compound, and then synthesize it through your liver and through your through the gallbladder and through other forms of the other organs into hemoglobin iron, so that the blood cells will be fed by that, and then the oxygen be picked up by that, you ain't gonna live. You're gonna die. So they would bite you, suck your hemoglobin that was already converted, and then they'd live. Those are the lower forms. Then there are those who come next to you and just absorb your energy coming off of you. Those are the worst. Because they sap the point where you think. They sap the point where your life, your thoughts are. They're thought sappers. Those are the ones that suck mind. And those are the ones that drain you. You start to feel your energy go, and you don't know you're doing it. They could stand right behind you and do it. They have techniques to do that to you. And you could feel it. You could feel it as if somebody is taking your skin and pulling it, if you're sensitive enough. So there are different levels of vampirism, and they have different people who are doing, actually, hopefully, the ones that you were telling me about. I'm not just speaking about vampirism based upon it being one of the stories that they latched on to. And so there are different levels of vampirism, and they have different people who are doing. And they're enhancing that one story and then saying that that's what all happened. It didn't happen like that. As man fell, the more he fell, the more vampiric he became. A true vampire is one, the true number one, the ace vampire is the one who takes directly from light, who feeds directly from light. But all living things are vampiric at one level or another, because all living things have appetite. Once you are free of appetite, that's when you become a god.
Yeah, them Jews get on my bus. And so they get on my bus and they start chanting shit behind me. I gotta tell them to back up. Sometimes they all get around and it's battery. You know what I'm saying? I'll be like, yo, back up. Back up from behind me, because I know what's going on.
Yeah.
They all over the place, man. Now, the question to add on with vampires, are there some vampires that just don't know they're vampires and they still bring the energy?
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
come see me, you know, and when they leave, I'm drunk.
Well, yeah, they're unconscious vampires.
You know, charged, they're gone.
Yeah, they come with a deficit in their aura.
You can really sandwich or nothing.
And keep going.
and keep going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Start charging people.
Yeah.
I literally be drained. Now I'm a little more aware of it, so I'm able to say, listen, look, I can't talk now. I know you're going through something in your life. You know what I'm saying, or whatever, but I just can't give you off that energy, so you take it.
Well, see, you don't have to give it off. You have to understand how it works. You see, what you do is there's a point where after you become the adept, you put the energy in front of them for them to feel good with. And you don't give up anything. You can place an energy field between you and the next person and get that person to feel wonderful. And the way they do that is not by you offering up anything, it's by them tapping into the source that they forgot they had. But what's happening is you feel, based on your empathy, that you need to give something, and since they are empathetic at that, you're empathetic, and you're sympathetic and they're empathetic at the top, you think that by giving all of this, no, you'll suck yourself dry. This I did in the beginning when I started out. But what you do is the first thing, as soon as somebody starts telling you all about what they're about, the first thing you have to do is become detached. Your empathy puts you in their field of influence. So you have to become detached from them and pay attention. In it, but not of it. Yeah.
That's what we as practitioners, health practitioners have to do. I mean, I hear other health practitioners say, oh, you know, if I work so hard on this person, it drain my energy out. And that doesn't have to happen in the same way.
Right.
We're transformers of energy anyway. That's what we are. We're fields of energy. So if you know where to place that energy and how to open up and allow, as a practitioner, allow that energy to flow, you benefit from it.
Yeah.
You're not giving from yourself, but you're just a conduit. And you're actually receiving some of those good rays as well as giving them. So that can happen.
Many different ways. Yeah.
So to add on to your question, just like there are people who are unconscious that they're vampires, there are obviously people who are conscious that they are vampires, and they get together and they conspire and be like, hey, I'm hungry, it's time to eat, where are you gonna go, what are we gonna do? Because I don't know if anybody here saw the Underworld. That's one of the deepest vampire movies I've ever seen. Blade was it. But I think Underworld, in my opinion, really took it to another level because they got together, they congregated from all over the world, they had a feast, and it was like, these humans are our food.
Yeah, they did the same thing in Blade, the beginning Blade. They took this from Blade, the same thing. Because there was a circle, a hierarchy of vampires. And the young boy, the Turk, was trying to take it over.
He wasn't even a full vampire.
No, he wasn't. He was turned.
Full blood.
Yeah. You were merely turned, right?
Now, another question I have to ask is, in terms of, you know, a lot of people, you know, every time I turn on the television, there's always like big, giant sporting events. Around the clock, when basketball season and football season starts, hockey season, all of these people in the stadium, can vampires tap into that energy source as well? Because I'm not gonna lie, the other night, I was watching the Yankees, and it went game 7, into the 11th energy, and even I was caught up in it, you know what I'm saying? But it made me step back and think, damn, I looked down on the television at the stadium, I said, that looks like a big feast.
Yeah.
If someone knows how to tap into that,
It's all ritual.
There you go. So this is going on. So I was wondering why is the reason they keep all these sporting events constantly going, and especially the college games, 80,000 people at a college game. So I was wondering if it's not like a food source, and they keep going regularly, so they at least still have the high ups will have some kind of food. They never run low on pack them up in the clothes.
Yeah.
So
You're right. College, collage, everything is brought together in the format. Anytime you consolidate the attention of 80,000 people on one thing, that ritual becomes an energy source for whoever's playing at the ritual. The seats themselves are magnetically set up in such a way to amplify human thought. Remember, to amplify human emotions. And that's what you want. You want to feed on the emotions of human. Especially, it's not even emotions that are emoting towards something that you have created or want to create. It's actually in the air over a team or whatever it is. It's one portion, maybe 5 or 10% tithed to the team, but the rest of it is just ambient, pure energy that they're sucking from. And know that there is, if you're looking, for instance, at the Yankees, the diamond is a ritual. 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, and 90 degrees. So you're actually looking at the mound or the plate or the bases as a energy configuration. Everything that's in there is based on ritual because everybody knows the rules. Everybody's looking for a certain action, and everybody, when they yell at the same time, that's an energy, sound. Yeah, right. Everything is set up to cause adrenaline to flow. Once adrenaline starts flowing, it's an electrical current.
I have a question. To back up, I know you went through it, but you spoke of the being blue-black.
Mm-hmm.
Where was it, or when was it in the timeline when we were actually green? Because I know we were green.
Right. There was a deeper greenish current. Right.
Yeah.
Right. It had to
In
be.
that place, where was it before or after the blue-black?
Right. It was during the time when there were different environmental features as the planet began to change in different environmental features. There are certain places where the sun fed man so that man did not have to eat, so the blue blacks were more consolidated to a part of the area of the world there. Then there were certain parts where they'd have to drink or they would take of the berries, and there would be a darkish hue with a greenish tint. Some would be darkish hue with a bluish tint. So there were blue blacks and blue greens. But these blue greens were the chlorophyll creatures, and each one of it had to deal with a chakra. Remember, as man began to consolidate into chakra points, the higher blue, black, or purple was the higher realm energies that dealt mostly with mind. Those are the ones that were the first order races that created simply by thinking, or were into places where they walked through dimensions and so forth. That's why you don't see them anymore. Those are the ones whose eyes were so huge they came to the side of the head, and the ones that the Kemites drew on their walls with those huge eyes like that. They didn't have any sclera, any whites. That's why they were called the doe-eyed gods. The green-eyed gods were the ones who, like Saktapana, the way the word Saktapana came from, where the Hindus spoke about 1 million years ago, those are the ones that dealt directly from certain refracted rays of that particular sunlight as the hydrogen canopy began to change its vibrational halo energy. So there were certain refracted energies, and they would begin to start picking up energies based upon the green. So as a plant would pick up certain sunlight in the green, we would be dealing from that. And the atmosphere, remember, during the time it was going through all those changes, had a higher carbon dioxide level. So as a man plant, carbon dioxide was not from toxins, it was from needed. So we would breathe carbon dioxide back in those days, because as the man plant, we would be processing oxygen and carbon dioxide during that time.
Was it in the heart chakra?
Yeah, that stopped back in the time when man was in the heart chakra. So as we get lower and lower, you notice we began to become more of the red races and so forth. So as we down in the lowest races, the white man, who is the real red race, not the native person, they call him the red man. The white man is the red man. So he's the big chakra man. He's the last, lowest that man could ever go and be. And he knows it. His hostile, madness, pure lust and emotion and take, and doesn't feel, doesn't have any empathy for the planet. None of that. So again, as chakra creatures, when we go up to the blue-black, the ones keeping the deepest melanin are the ones that are keeping the code for the highest blue-black creatures that still have it. Very few of them still let me. You go in certain parts of Africa, like in Senegal, they are blue-black, and you could see when you shine a light on them, if they're sweating, they get a green hue or a blue hue around them. Those are the ones. Those are the real ancient ones.
See the ones that's so dark and there's a red hue.
Well, that's depending on which one of the races of the chakras that they were actually representing. But most of that is now magenta. It's not a reddish hue, it's the magenta. Yeah, there's the purple, then there's the magenta, which is the just a little lower than the purple. Yeah, these are the root races. And then I mean the root, they talk about the chakra, which is the root.
In terms of chlorophyll,
Mm-hmm.
explaining its importance and
No doubt.
time because I was watching a program on television. Yeah, I'm watching it with TV.
We all do, brother.
And you know, it was the guy who was talking about these supreme greens and something, but it was condensed chlorophyll and the importance of it.
Yeah.
So I want you to elaborate on that. But the person might have new cliches now. They call themselves chlorophyllians, and so I try to stay abreast of all this stuff. I mean, but I want to know the importance of chlorophyll itself.
Well, chlorophyll itself, again, is a byproduct. It's a byproduct, a synthesis of the green, which is, again, the heart, the planet energy. That empathy that we're supposed to be feeling from this hue is what's supposed to actually keep us in empathetic contact with the planet. But because we become heartless, that's why the planet is being destroyed. We have lost our green hue, our contact with our green chakra. The chlorophyll is essentially that part of the spectrum that is midpoint between the red and the purple. That's the place where all things is in equilibrium. Understand that when life comes into being, it comes into being as green. The top, as I said, the top of the food chain, or the highest order on this planet, are the trees, not man. That's why the Aztecs and the Mayans said that man was born. When they show you the first man, he's coming out of a tree. Okay? The tree of the garden, in the garden, all of these things are very important because the tree is essentially the highest life form. The tree can live without us, but we can't live without the tree. Okay? The trees essentially are said to be us, upside down, because we are the creature that walks with our roots in the sky, while the roots of the tree are in the ground. And so they keep us focused. They keep us focused and anchored. That's why some of the people who say when what's happening to the planet, why we're dying like we are, and why we get rid of the green, is because the trees were actually those souls who were damned to come back, who were dared to come back based on their behavior. You come back as a tree to put back into the balance. You see, you'd come back as a tree, you'd reincarnate back as a tree in order to put back or to become a fixed element for balance on the planet. Now the green inside, the green as we look at it, the green chlorophyll, that used to be part of us. We used to have that. But during the time of the change, when the world began to change its frequency modulation, when the frequency wave point, or the point of intent that blossomed into the planet we see, that point of intent now shifted. And as the earth itself is evolving its own consciousness, that shift now has caused a change in our relationship between the green and us. And in that shift, we began to jettison the magnesium molecule. As soon as we could no longer breathe the proper combination of elementals to create that magnesium molecule, we flushed